Now, if we switch to a pseudo gold standard where currencies are valued according to gold held by the treasuries, that might be a different deal. The value of currencies right now is determined by computer programs run out of the Fed in New York and the Treasury. So, they're rigged just as much as the gold and silver markets. If a country were to actually back their currency in a pseudo gold standard, it would be backed but not redeemable. And that really has shown not to work either. The only real gold standard that is possible in the long term is a coin standard, having all currency redeemable in gold or silver coin. And so partial backing won't work. And I don't see China will go to a gold and silver standard when everybody else does. One country can't do it alone if it's redeemable, because everybody would redeem it and the game would be over. So they will, when the global crash happens, I think every country will change their monetary system to reflect a commodity-based system.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Okay, and at this point, we're going to flip back to Romans for another one.
Okay, Bix, I'm asking this question on behalf of our forum member, Ned. In Africa, I was told that a scale and a calculator were used in many transactions involving silver coins versus the inflated paper. I doubt this will happen in the U.S. I come from a time when coins were silver, gold was in the $35 range. We knew about PMs, inflation, and made money or lost. There is a lack of awareness about wealth retention by getting away from paper in many people today. How do you educate them? The days of pulling silver dollars out of the bank and selling them down the road are long gone. In the event of a dollar devaluation, we all know PMs will save us. What other steps could you take along with metals?
Well, I think the coming crash of the unbacked fiat monetary system will be a gigantic education for everyone. When people lose their life savings, their jobs, their checking account, their way of life, the lessons that Ron Paul has been preaching all these years will come to the forefront for everyone. Every single person on the planet will feel the ramifications of the destruction of the unbacked fiat monetary system. So the long lost days of pulling gold and silver out of your pocket to use as money are going to be that is our future. And the Fed Boston comics that I've analyzed so thoroughly, it's exactly what they're saying, is that and showing in pictures of people cashing in gold coins at banks. Now this is a publication printed and written by the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. They are ready to do that. And if you look at the new $100 bill, it's got gold all over it, and they're ready and prepared to go back onto a gold and silver standard when the time comes, and the time is coming very quickly, I believe.
Yeah, I long for those good old days again too. Thanks.
Sure.
Bix, I'm going to throw some more of your famous last words from the last interview back at you.
Good.
In the last interview, you expressed the view that the bad guys are being removed from power in the USA. Yet presently in Europe, the Goldman Sachs gang, as Gerald Celente called them, appear to have solidified a number of roles in Europe, including the head of the ECB, Mario Draghi, and Mario Monti being placed into the leadership role in Italy. Furthermore, Lucas Papademos was in charge of the Greek Central Bank from 1994 until 2002. He also oversaw Goldman's swap deal and is now leading the Greek government. So instead, the Fed, the ECB, and the IMF, and the other central bankers have taken steps to increasingly increase global liquidity and to continue to exert control over and in support of the global debt markets. How long can this game of whack-a-mole continue?
Well, it's the very fact that they feel the urgency and the need to do all that that shows you that we are crumbling. Behind the scenes of every bank, all the pillars are crumbling down, and they're trying to get their people in charge in order to prolong the system. Now, it's impossible to do, and once the crash happens, those are the people who will be blamed by the 99.9% of us, shall we say, that will blame them for the problems. They will blame them that they're not getting paid anymore, that their checking account has nothing in it because the bank they held it at was insolvent. So, they're doing everything they can, but it will be not enough. And that's kind of where we are now. You're seeing all the, even within the United States, they're throwing the Constitution out the window. But once the crash happens, and once all these banksters are exposed for what they are, then they'll be taken out, given truth trials and all that stuff, and we'll learn about our past, how controlled we've been. It's just coming out into the open these days. So, the closer and closer we get to the end game, the more and more these guys will try to, patch things together with tape.
Well, let's hope that the tape finally gives way, because we could certainly stand getting back to a constitutional government and honest money and moving things forward on behalf of the 99.9% of us. And for the next question, Alan has one that will hopefully help that 99.9%. Alan?
Yes, hello again, Bix. And I think a lot of us do see the crash coming that you're talking about, but we don't exactly know what might happen after that, so we're starting to think about bartering. And if people are purchasing silver coins for future barter, do you think that they should also consider some of the smaller denominations like dimes and quarters?
Yes, definitely. I like the pre-1965 coins because they're a good value for the silver content, and they're easily recognizable. They should be good for barter if it does get to a barter type situation. Now, I don't know if it will, but the smaller coins, I try to stay away from the larger bars, just mainly because of the potential for counterfeiting, basically putting tungsten in the gold bars and molybdenum in the silver bars. It's harder to do on a coin basis. You can easily weigh a coin when you buy it. So I tend to stick to coins because, right now with a silver coin and a silver bar, if you think about when you go cash in coins of gold and silver, I do it on occasion. I hate doing it, but got to pay the bills sometimes. You get very little pushback or analysis from the coin dealer who's buying it on whether or not that's a real coin. On the bar, on silver bars as well. It's hard for them, first of all, to determine whether or not a bar is filled with lead or whatever it's filled with. But as the price of silver, say, goes to $1,000 an ounce, you're talking $100,000 for a bar of silver. They're going to put a lot more time and effort into determining whether that's pure silver or not. So if you stick with the smaller coins, they're harder to fake, and because they've been so cheap for so long, the value of faking them isn't even there. So yeah, I like U.S. coins along with the U.S. Eagles because they are covered under the currency counterfeiting laws because they are legal tender. Although the value of the metal is more than the value printed on the coin, but the counterfeiting laws are much stronger than the fraud laws. If you fake a bar, that's more along the lines of fraud, not counterfeiting a currency. So I like to stick with U.S. Eagles and the pre-65 coins.
Well, that's great to hear. I've been doing the right thing then. I do have one other question, and this goes back to J.P. Morgan and the manipulations that they and others have done with the silver futures. I'm sure you're aware of what Max Kaiser and some of the others have done in the so-called Silver Liberation Army, which is following the same strategy that you were discussing earlier. Do you think these efforts will ever be successful in actually affecting these banks?
Yes, and I think so on different levels. From my analysis of the Max Kaiser, I think it was called Buy Silver, Kill J.P. Morgan, or something to that effect. That drive, I figured that took about 10 million physical ounces off the market, which is good, which is significant. Now, whether or not that affects price is a different subject, because 10 million ounces, although it's a lot of silver, when they're trading 1 billion ounces a day on the COMEX in paper silver contracts, they still have control of the price of silver, no matter how much silver you take off the market. But it is important on another level in that it educates people. Many, many people came to the silver story after Max Kaiser started talking about it, Alex Jones started talking about it. And once you understand the silver story, you'll get a better idea of everything that goes on, and you'll be more inclined to switch your gold into silver, because silver is such a better story than gold. Gold's not a bad story, but silver's much, much better.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay, Bix, this is McLaren back at you, and I'm going to be asking this next question on behalf of forum member Space. I watched the world's central bankers sell large quantities of gold into the open market from 1996 until 2002. I thought the Bank of England sale of 400 tons at $254 US per ounce was probably the final purchase by the Illuminati, and that the gold and silver charts rather would confirm this. Because prices have gone up ever since, would you elaborate briefly on the following? Post-collapse distribution of gold and silver, i.e., the powers that be have all of the gold, we will have the silver. How do you see this working out?
I've heard it a lot that the Rothschilds and the powers to be have all the gold and have been hoarding it and things like that. I don't fully believe it, and the reason I don't believe it is I know that the U.S. since 71 or 72 has been planning to return to a gold standard. We have been accumulating gold, and secretly, obviously it's not reported anywhere, but at the same time, the gold that the U.S. holds at Fort Knox and the official gold, I think that it has been leased out or loaned out, but it's kind of there's a split between our official gold, which is basically controlled by the banksters, and then there's this secret Road to Ruta stash of gold that we've been accumulating for decades, and also all this gold that we have in the ground, that in these secret gold mines that we have not been exploiting, will be opened up and we'll be able to go back onto a gold standard. When the collapse happens and we do return to a gold and silver standard, all globalization will end because no one will trust us because we've defaulted on the dollar. So it will be a domestic gold and silver standard according to the Road to Ruta. We won't be trading with other countries either for a while. So we'll just take care of ourselves, bring all our troops home, put them on the borders of our own country. So yes, I think the powers that be have a lot of physical gold, but I don't think it is a problem with the way when the United States goes back to our gold and silver standard.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Bix. We're going to flip it over to Romans, who will be asking 2 questions on behalf of Obi-Wan 1. Romans?
Yes, Bix, this is on behalf of Obi-Wan 1. And I have these same questions myself, by the way. Do you adamantly 100% believe that all paper investments will be worthless? That holding physical is the only scenario in your model that will be safe when the dust settles?
There's a possibility that that